Chairman Engelbright mentioned, our first speaker is the Honorable John Strough, who's the Supervisor of the town of Queensbury. And prior to my election as a member of the Assembly, I was the town supervisor at Queensbury. So John is one of my successors, and prior to that, we served on the town board together. He was a councilman. And prior to that, although he may not want me to out him, he was my 10th grade history teacher. So, Mr. Strough, it is a pleasure to see you here, and I'll let him speak for himself and on behalf of the town of Queensbury, but I can tell you, having worked closely with John over many years prior to my becoming a member of the Assembly and even up till now, electronic waste has been something that he's tracked. It's an issue in Warren County, where Queensbury is located, and the surrounding areas. It's been something that his town board has been concerned with, and has captured some local media attention, that we still have some issues with how the system is or is not working the way that we hope it would. So, John, pleasure to see you. Welcome here, and the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Assemblyman Stec, and thank you, Chairman Engelbright.
We're going to try to establish some protocols here. Okay. So if you would state your name, even though it's just been very eloquently stated, but for our record, each of our speakers, we'd like you to state your names prior to beginning your comments. And of course, this isn't directed toward you, but we're going to try to ask each testifier to speak for no more than 10 minutes. Mr. Supervisor, the forum is yours.
Thank you. My name is John Strough. I am the supervisor of the town of Queensbury. We are the largest town in the county of Warren. We have a population of a little under 30,000, and the county of Warren's population is approximately 70,000. We are also the seat of the county government. We are a thriving town that has a very diverse economy. We are home to the Warren County Airport. We are home to SUNY Adirondack College. We have exits 18, 19, and 20 of the Northway bisect our town, which adds to a thriving retail and hotel and restaurant business. So it's a very active town. But I'm here today to speak about some e-waste collection concerns. My concern is that the current construction of state law is insufficient in its assurance to provide for the caretaking of unwanted electronic equipment or waste. Our local problem with e-waste collection surfaced when our local electronic collection business, which was Northeast Electronics Recycling, had collection trailers at several of our county's landfill transfer stations. Then all of a sudden, about a year ago, Northeast Electronics Recycling owner, John Riley, came in to see me in my office and announced that he might not be able to stay in business. Now, this has worked quite well because town of Queensbury has 2 transfer stations. He provided enclosed trailers because the electronic goods, as you know, has to be enclosed, cannot be exposed to the weather. He had enclosed trailers at our transfer stations. People just dropped off their electronic goods. There was no charge to the residents for dropping off their electronic goods. When the trailer got fairly full, we notified him. He came, picked up the trailer. He was renting a garage in downtown adjacent municipality, Glens Falls. He sorted them, they picked it up, and they paid him. So he was making money on that process. He said approximately he had transfer stations, 2 of them in Queensbury, 1 in Warrensburg, 1 in Thurman, 1 in Horicon, and 1 across the river in the county of Saratoga and the town of Moreau. He had a transfer station drop off there as well. So he said, I can't make money. The What I was getting paid for CRTs, they're no longer paying that. CRTs and flat panel units, of course, I understand have lead in the screens and therefore have to be taken care of in a more responsible way than many of the other electronic equipment. So he said, unless the town was willing to pay him to keep his trailers at our transfer stations, and he estimated the cost to be about $35,000, $38,000, he would have to go out of business. He also said at the time that you paying me may not be legal because we're not supposed to charge for e-waste that's in a credit stream. Okay, so I said, well, all right, so charging a municipality, is that actually charging the customer? So in any event, he went out of business. So until last week, we had no ability as far as a municipality to accept e-waste. Many calls came to my office. I said, well, you can try this retailer and that retailer. Well, they don't take the TVs and they don't take this and they don't take that. They only take what they sold and so forth. So there was a difficulty. We didn't have any. Our concern was that, okay, now we're going to start seeing this e-waste up on the mountains. We live there at the base of the Adirondack Mountains, so we're going to see them in the watershed. We're going to see them here. We're going to see them there. People are going to just drop them off wherever because they have no place to put them and they want to be rid of them. All right, so basically, like I said, up until last week, there was no e-waste collection system provision for the residents of Warren County. There still isn't for many residents of Warren County. I'll get back to that. But I want to get back to the law first. The law does not appear to be working as originally designed. The current laws and regulations are set up with the intent that it is the burden of the manufacturers to provide this service, as per Environmental Conservation Law, Article 27, Title 26, Electronic Equipment Recycling and Reuse, which says in brief, manufacturers of covered electronic equipment must implement a plan for the collection, consolidation, and recycling of electronic waste, e-waste, from New York consumers. Manufacturers was the key word there. Again, manufacturers must establish a convenient acceptance system for consumers to ensure every county in New York State and every municipality with a population of 10,000 or more has at least one collection opportunity. Manufacturers are supposed to provide this. Again, according to ECL Article 27, Title 26. The manufacturer has to provide collection of e-waste in a manner convenient to consumers, such as fixed acceptance locations, such as dedicated acceptance locations. Have at least one method of acceptance that is available within county or municipality. And that e-waste provision is supposed to be provided by manufacturers. Because e-waste, and we all agree, should not go into the normal waste stream. And that's a law. It's a law of New York. You cannot throw e-waste into the normal e-waste stream. I had heard reports, but we looked out for it, that people were taking their TVs, sledgehammering them, breaking them up, putting them in a black plastic bag, and then throwing them into our trash containers at our transfer stations. All right, again, because the law wasn't working like it was supposed to, these inadvertent things, putting this electronic waste into the waste stream, everything, something that we do not wish to see, was actually happening. So local municipal leaders, like myself, have discussed this problem with directors at New York State DEC, Division of Materials Management, Bureau of Waste Reduction and Recycling. These communications acknowledged the problem and confirmed that it is a statewide problem. The Bureau of Waste Reduction and Recycling directors explained to me that the e-waste collection is not supposed to be the burden of retailers or municipalities. The law was set up so that municipalities could step out of, using their words, the e-collection program, not be involved. Municipalities are neither required nor obligated to participate in an electronic waste collection site in accordance with New York State's e-waste law. Consumers should have at least one free and convenient method of recycling available to them through Electronic Equipment Manufacturers Acceptance Program. So it appears to me that this state's current legislation needs amending to better address these collection needs. So where am I right now? I have secured a contract with a firm out of Utica called Evolution Recycling. I have had to buy two 12 by 12 storage sheds with barn doors so that our residents in Queensbury and Glens Falls can deposit their e-waste, and the e-waste will be covered as it's supposed to by law. I will pay Evolution Recycling 15 cents a pound for all CRTs, which is the tube-type TVs, and all flat panel units, which also have lead in them. So I have to pay 15 cents a pound. Now, I am charging those people who are depositing CRTs and flat panel screens, I'm charging them, and I just came up with this, and I'm hoping it works because we only started this last week. If the object is 1 to 20 pounds, it'll be $3. If it's 21 to 40 pounds, $6. If it's 41 to 65 pounds, it's $10. If it's 65 plus pounds, it's $15. Anything over 100 pounds, I will be losing money. Okay, so I'm charging them. But in theory, I don't think I was supposed to charge them. But you know what? I got to provide the service. The phone calls, the residents wanted me to provide the service. It may not be in accord with the law, but I'm providing it. People are happier. They're not so happy about paying for it when they drop it off, but we explain to them where we are at this point in time. They seem to understand in most cases. So that, in summary, is what I would like to offer you. If you have any questions.
Thank you, Supervisor. Any questions from the panel?
Well, yeah, Chairman, maybe not a question, but just to comment on Mr. Strough's testimony. You know, certainly we here in Albany are very good at, you know, passing and forwarding ideas that we think are great ideas. A lot of local municipalities will then in turn refer to them as mandates or unfunded mandates as they are. But here's one where even the law, the intent of the law was not to create a cost to local municipalities at all. This was supposed to be something that was going to be carried by the manufacturers. I'm not sure if necessarily that made the most sense, but be that as may, that is what the law says. And it's, you know, I'm sure it's frustrating for Supervisor Strough and his town board who's dealt with this issue over the last few years. But you know, this was something that was not supposed to be a cost to the taxpayer, not supposed to be a cost to the individual municipalities, but it's a service that people need and expect, and we're told was going to be provided to them by manufacturers, and it's not happening. And as a resident and taxpayer in the town of Queensbury that John is supervisor of, I'm not crazy about town tax money going to subsidize, which in effect this is now, it's a subsidy, something that we've mandated this subsidy through either a poorly written original law or the lack of enforcement of the current law. And I hope that this is a temporary situation, as I'm sure Supervisor Strough does. Here's a question. Based on that, though, Mr. Strough, was there any a significant pushback in the media or town board meetings to the town fronting the money or subsidizing this activity to provide the service?
Is your question, was there any concern among the residents?
Or the town board, yeah, I mean, did you, how was the discussion?
One concern was that we had to spend $5,200 for the sheds for the electronic waste. That had to come out of the taxpayers' pockets. We have one shed at each of our transfer stations. And, I just, in theory, I didn't think that this was a municipal responsibility, but in order to solve the problem, it is a municipal responsibility.
I certainly see where you're coming from. Thank you.